So life is a beautiful paradox. Um, and the reason I'm saying that is because wanting to share some just personal insights recently, I found that, and it's something that's coming through in my videos as well, that I seem to be coming more into a balance. I don't feel as wanting or needing to put out content and talk about this reality that's called life, and consequently what's happening is there seems to be more and more content coming out, and I seem to be talking to more and more people, and I feel myself backing off, and yet in that backing off I seem to be coming forward, and in that wanting to be in silence there seems to be a desire to talk more about it, and it's contradictory, and it's not something that the mind is going to understand. It's not going to make sense of it, that you're saying one thing but something else is happening. And it's an absolutely wonderful, wonderful paradox, and it's actually a place of home in the truest sense of the word. And when we are home and we are living from that place of center, when we are living in this balance, we find that we are observing the universe, and we are observing everything around us, and what we're observing is who we truly are. And this observation is expansive, and it deepens, and we see more and more and more of what we truly are. And we become aware of the subtleties and the nuances, and we become aware of the subtleties of energy as well. And we find that communication becomes deeper, connection becomes deeper with the other, even though that connection isn't really a connection, because it's really just one. And we find that as we live in this paradox, or as we live in this contradiction, that life just makes sense, and yet it doesn't make sense to anybody. And that life is this dance of duality that contradicts itself and yet makes perfect sense. And in that making sense, it really isn't making sense at all to anybody. But then there is really no need to try and make sense of this all. And yet what we find is there are attempts to want to know this, to understand this, to control this, to attain it, and to say, look, I am this. And that's perfectly fine as well. And yet in that expanse and in that center, in that place of balance, we find that we are so much more than just a limited idea of self, and this limited idea of a story or a pointer or a way of being. And we are living in the truest sense of the word. And it's absolutely beautiful. And it's something that's being experienced, and it's such a contradiction, but it's such a beautiful contradiction. Like I'm saying, it's like I was saying, sorry, I'm looking to do less, and yet I now understand really deeply this meaning of it's just happening, because there isn't this idea of somebody trying to do something. We strive so hard in our lives to create those perfect lives. We want that perfect relationship, that perfect body, we want that perfect career, and we really strive, we work hard, we read all these self-help books, and we do all manner of things to create this perfect life for ourselves. And yet, if we just let go and we just surrender, and we are open to life, and we open up our arms to life and just allow whatever needs to happen, we find that we live in a real place of efficiency and a real place of ease as well, because then life just happens, and it's not a disempowering place, because we find that we are engaged with life, and yet we are life in the truest sense of the word, and there is wisdom there, because then everything just opens up. Like I said, I'm doing nothing at this moment in time, and yet content comes out, people are appearing. There is this desire to speak, not emanating from some personal self, and content seems to be appearing, and there seems to be almost, in a sense, a structure starting to appear as well. So out of this mass of words and talks and seminars and books, there seems to be an understanding emerging. And rather than get in the way and try to understand that and control that, I'm finding that life is just happening as an how it's happening. Yes, I do plot and plan. Yes, I do make plans to do something one day, and then what's so beautiful is life taking those plans and throwing them in the bin and showing me something so much more deeper. And then also showing me that I'm more than this idea of this story of this person, and that I myself at this moment in time, just like yourself, who's listening to this video, is a perfect expression of life, that the story makes sense, that everything was meant to be like this, from the choice of words, to the choice of clothes, to where I live, to the people I speak to relationships, to my personal relationships. That is all one beautiful expression of life that sometimes loves itself and sometimes loathes itself, and that's fine. And yet it's not fine as well. And we have no choice, and yet we have choice as we recognize ourselves as what we truly are, to, in a sense, strive to really deepen in our understanding of what we really are, which I feel really is the only work that needs really to be done. And in this paradox and in this contradiction, we find ourselves. And as we start trusting it, as we start becoming one with it, as the veils lift, as the separation starts to die, we find that this paradox, this beautiful, beautiful paradox, is home, and it's who we actually are. And it's my sincerest wish that you experience that. And yet, as I say that, we are all experiencing this home, this place of home. So I don't know why this video recorded like it did. It's a bit of a departure from some of my videos, but it's just really saying, be okay with it, be okay with the contradictions, the not understanding, the not making sense, and just accept. And what you may find is in that acceptance, everything changes, and we find that what didn't make sense anymore makes sense, because ultimately now we're finally accepting of who we truly are.